And then we're on, right, Trace?
I didn't see. You say, Mike.
You see it?
Somebody gentlemen, I guess.
I think that's open.
Where is Otter?
It would have come in as a 10B.
Man.
One of my phones.
Town committee, no, I'm not saying it. It didn't ask to be let in that I'm aware of, Tracy.
Sure. So this is you. That's fantastic.
Okay, I need to sign in.
Are you, yeah, you gotta go. Or are you gonna?
No, I gotta turn my computer on.
Yeah, go ahead.
And you're gonna admit me.
Yep, go, let's see if you can, let's see if you can.
When I was a kid.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, Tracy thought you would get it.
Now it is pretty easy.
We thought we knew what we were doing. No.
Of course we do.
Fantastic. I thought it went.
Frustrating computers to me, I tell them that we didn't exist when I was at Coffins. If we knew how to do it, we sawdust. Yeah.
School, Jesus.
I can do, I can go.
Oh, that's true.
I got here good and early.
I think we're in Zoom.
And it
Well, we
didn't
found
help.
our meeting.
Didn't help.
On video.
And,
There's go,
Well, it's interesting from here, Mr. Chair, the screen has a reflection of the window.
So big, what we need to do is close that line a little more.
That's selected.
Maybe the other way.
Well, that helps some, thank you.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Just in front of it.
Here we go, Tracy.
Yeah.
You're both on it.
Progress.
Yeah, you're admitted. Okay.
Also.
Mike, you're in, right?
Yeah, and I just left because you're gonna have an echo otherwise.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna approve your request, Tracy.
God, what have you just done?
All right, Lee, I'm not seeing you yet. All right, Tracy, I think we're good because you're in, right? Otter? Awesome. Okay. All right, take it easy.
Okay, I'm getting there, folks. My computer is now disconnecting to the internet.
Thanks for sending that over to me, by the way. I know.
Did you read it all?
It's that's, I haven't seen it out, it's so small, getting it in my computer.
Oh, that's for you. Anyways.
I will, but it had to.
Screen of mine. I thought I had a Zoom connection. Okay. What we're gonna do is start. While Mike is making his presentation, I'm gonna see if I can sign myself in so I can display your PowerPoint slides.
I do have paper copies if paper copies are sufficient for
That would
others. I don't know if
be
anybody's
sufficient.
online, they won't be able to see so much, but
Nobody's signed in.
okay. Grab one and pass it down with the apology that the staple is on the wrong side of the top of the page.
That's all right. We left-handed once in a while.
Whoever stapled it was left-handed. It's my father's.
Okay. Thank you.
You will.
Here's what we're sharing, you need to see.
Yeah.
For the record, this is the Committee on Roads and Right of Way. It is Tuesday, October the 21st. I'm Lee Saperstein, Chair. And again, for the record, we'll have a quick roll call. To my right, Rick Atherton. Here. Nelson called Snooky Eldridge,
Yeah,
Ed Gillum,
here.
Gordon Afterline,
Yeah.
Matt Lowell,
Here.
Rob Rennie, who writes that he won't be here, Alan Reinhardt,
Yeah.
Lee Saperstein, Chair here, and Phil Smith. At the moment, no. We have 7 out of 9, so that's a quorum. The agenda is relatively simple. We do have one set of minutes for approval, and they're from July. And so we'll approve them and then make a short announcement about minutes and minute taking. July minutes were distributed. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, so we've got Rick, Schutz, and something. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary opposed, unanimous. Now, I know I'm supposed to take a roll call vote, but we don't have anybody on Zoom. Just double check. Rob, do we have anybody trying to get in?
No, nobody's asked to be admitted. We have.
Okay, and here comes Phil Smith. 4:05 p.m. All right, minutes. Hey, Phil, hi, come on in. We've got you noted.
I'm sorry?
Attendance, we've got you noted. We have all kinds, throw the jacket on the table and come on out. And then Mike has got something to
He all said you want to sit down here,
No, that's fine.
you're good? Okay,
Yeah, I was just gonna make a quick announcement about minutes and then it'll be.
Okay, sure.
We are trying to go as high-tech as possible. Minutes are being recorded. With the recording, the system generates a summary. It doesn't take much to convert that summary into minutes. Change the headings, you rearrange things, you cut out a lot of extra language, and presto, we have minutes. Tracy McDonald, our real estate specialist, had interns in the summer, which is why we've got June and July minutes. But when they went back to Holy Cross, I think, went back to university, we've got the August and September minutes sitting on file as a summary, but not converted. I'm gonna work with her in the next couple of weeks to get July, August, and October minutes for your perusal and eventually approval.
Nice, thank you.
In the real future, I'm hoping we have a secretary who will work with me and with Tracy and Bob Bistrowski, in just a minute, okay, to convert these summaries into minutes. Is it work? Yes. Is it a lot of work? No. It's probably far less than when I took minutes by hand. I just should record for the computer that we have Mike Burns, transportation manager, and Rob Vistrowski with us, real estate specialist. And I think that's everybody who's around the table. When it's Bob's turn, we'll talk a little bit about encroachments, because that's a real estate issue. But right now, the big issue is our relationship with the town and the town's traffic program manager, and that's Mike Burns. And so, as I introduce Mike, let me remind you that we did look at a proposal to the town and sent it forward. The town is well aware of it. And in Mike's presentation, he'll make reference to that. So Mike, I think it's on you. And then if there are any issues or questions, we'll pick up afterwards.
Sure. And Lee asked me to give a bit of an update and a summary. So I provided 4 slides that I'd shared with the NPDDC at their September meeting. One was to kind of give some examples of other regional advisory committees that are in the area for the Cape Cod Commission and for the Martha's Vineyard Commission. They basically seek representation from each of their towns. The Vineyard has a representative for each of their 6 towns, as well as a county rep. And they make recommendations on 3C documents. You might be aware of the Transportation Improvement Program, the Long Range Transportation Plan, and then the Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP. Those are all regional documents that need to be approved by the NPDDC. And it's good to have like a steering committee or a sounding board to kind of bounce all those issues off, especially the Long Range Transportation Plan, which is broken up into a number of different transportation assets: roadways, transit, freight, air, and water.
My apologies for the interruption, but my recollection is that the current update of the long-range transportation plan has close to 30 suggested projects.
That sounds about right, and that would be the utility of an advisory committee, is to kind of review that list and add value or changes, something like this, to make sure that it's representative of the committee or the community, and then advise the town and the region on actions to take. So I share that as 2 examples of how it's done over in the Vineyard and the Cape. We want to do something very similar on Nantucket, which is what we're trying to do now. The second slide on the sheet is the bit of a summary of the roads and right-of-way recommendation, with the name of the committee, the Public Access Transportation Planning Advisory Committee, or PPAC, along with a mission statement that centers around the insurance of public access to various ways, and then also providing advice to the town on different vehicular uses on Nantucket roadways. It also had a structure of ex officio members, which included staff and NPDDC liaison, and then 9 voting members, which is fine, but that was the roads and right-of-way recommendation to the town. The third slide was something I had shared with the NPDDC way back earlier in the summertime, when the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee terms were about to expire. I thought it'd be good to expand the scope of PPAC to include more than just bike and pedestrian, but all the other assets that we just talked about. So that need, I did try to blend the mission of what the Roads and Right-of-Way Committee had approved, that being that the status of and improvements to access over public ways and right-of-way, abutters ways, proprietor ways, footpaths, lands, and other ways throughout the town and county, to advise on the status of those, but also to include that the roadway, intersection, freight, public parking, bike, pedestrian, all these other transportation assets are going to be advised, that are to be included in the town's strategic plan, the town's master plan, the long-range transportation plan, the TIP, and the UPWP. As well as a mission to advise on regulations for streets, paths, and sidewalks, and to maximize public outreach opportunities. The advisory committee would be reviewing survey data that we collect through public outreach, and then help digest that and advise using that as an input. I would say the most significant difference between the roads and right-of-way and the staff recommendation is the structure. Again, ex officio should be staff, and that's fine. Myself, the DPW director, and the real estate staff, but also include 2 NPDDC appointed voting members on the committee. along with 7 at-large members that would be appointed by the select board.
Right. Rob, is Otter now in?
Otter's there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're
Sorry.
fine. Yeah, they just don't have the image.
The more we have recording, the less work we have to do to create minutes.
I
It's
appreciate
on
it.
you, thank
I
you.
appreciate it. So the biggest difference between what I would call a staff recommendation and then what the Roads and Rider Committee had approved, I would say would be structurally having the 2 NPDC representatives on the advisory committee. The mission, I would say, is very similar. It's just I broke them out into bullet points that I would say gave a little more of importance to the 3C documents that we need an advisory committee to advise on. And I'm not necessarily wed to the name. When I had originally made a recommendation to the NPDC, instead of the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, I went with Transportation Planning Advisory Committee. Blending what the Roads and Right of Way Committee had suggested and having public access in the name. Transportation Planning and Public Access Advisory Committee with an acronym of something like TRAPAC. It sounds like traffic. To me, that was a little more fun and intuitive. But I am not wed to any type of moniker to that group. It could be PAC, TRAPAC,
We have to
PPAC.
so I mean, that's what's easy.
So I think it's from top to bottom, it's layers of importance, name, not so much, mission. I would like to have it broken out a little bit more to focus on the 3C documents as well as the public access mission. But the structure, I think is really important to have the 7 at large and then the 2 appointed NPDC to not lose that regional representation to the committee that we need to hold. So I shared this with the NPDC last month. I'm gonna ask them to make a recommendation Monday night at their October meeting. That's gonna be shared along with the Roads and Right of Way Committee recommendation to the select board. And then I guess they digest the recommendations and make a decision. But I want to share that with you all just for transparency and to collect whatever opinions you all might have, and I'll share that, well, Nat's here as well. Share that back with NPDC Monday night to see if there's any riff at all that we need to work out or if there's full support for this. So.
Thank you, Mike. By the time we're done with this segment of the agenda, I'm going to entertain a motion for cooperation or non-cooperation, although I hope it's cooperation. But before we start, Mike, there is an issue with the committee that was known as the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I was
Yeah.
told that it had been collapsed. I think the reality is that there's been no reappointments, but it's still on the books. Am I correct?
We're trying to rebrand the committee, just like Roads and Right of Way was being rebranded. I think we're trying to merge the 2. So the members of the old BPAC the old appointments to BPAC are completely eligible to apply for this reincarnation of whatever group it turns into be created. That's fine. And the bike and pedestrian issues that were talked about at BPAC are going to be talked about at this new committee. It's just going to be along with a lot of other things. So that's not being lost. Nothing's being lost at all, but we're trying to find some efficiencies with committee appointments.
Thank you, Mike. I'm an old bureaucratic infighter. Nothing is lost as long as people remember what used to be.
Yeah.
That's my job.
We anticipated that bicycles and pedestrians, not to mention half a dozen different kinds of mobility devices, from powered wheelchairs to electric scooters, are also involved.
Exactly.
Now you do have a member of MP and EDC next to you.
Correct.
Nat, reactions?
I think we're headed in the right direction. We did have extensive conversation about this whole BPAC thing, which I admittedly didn't realize what was really happening with that. When it first started, yeah, I mean, pretty obvious why it started. I mean, all of a sudden, these bicycles are just here, like poof, right? Out of, and one morning you wake up and all of a sudden they're here. And we had pointed them when Jerry. Jason was doing it. He was like running that, like that was his thing. He was great at it. It was new. So the appointments were all at once. We didn't have them staggered yet. It was like a new thing.
Just explain why they've all expired.
Right, that's right. And it was sort of it was from the NPDC. It was kind of came out of it by itself. It just sort of materialized into this committee. And the same people were doing it, they're very interested in it. For the most part, and then Joe got involved and really has kind of brought it to another level with his sort of expertise from. So. When Jason left, right? So I don't know if anything that I said about this a while back is part of all this, how this all happened, but I think this has been brewing for a while, something to change. I like citizens looking at stuff. I don't mean to talk negatively at all. I've talked to Drew a little bit about this too. When I can get him on the phone and hold him on the phone for a while. But I really like to do that, when I actually get him on the phone. It's. In the old days, Rick, we were on those two street and sidewalk committees, walking around with, Kara and all that. And I think we've got to the point now where we have a pretty good understanding of what is working, what isn't. We have this whole new right of way issue with sticks and stakes and rocks and that's I know.
Next agenda.
I know, but there's so many new things have plugged in. I think this is a good move for us.
Cool.
Okay, remember when we took a walk? I don't mean to diverse this conversation, but you're here, like the people that, most everyone in this room knows about it.
With us, I think Mike was.
Do you know what I'm gonna say about Prospect Street? That's what I was gonna talk about. When we took that walk that day,
2 power poles.
when we took that walk that day. What has been fixed since we took that walk? Nothing,
Curb, or a little bit of curbing.
barely. Okay, that was really the homeowner and they kind of screwed it up, but that's
No, it
okay.
was outside the hospital, that curb there.
Oh, that little thing got fixed, yeah, I know, but I'm talking about. We were looking at improving that, ever since the bike path to nowhere got all this negativity and it actually ended up being a smart idea, just they couldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
And then going up behind to Chicken Hill and all
Yeah.
that. Those kind of improvements or ideas need to be seriously looked at by, once we look at it, we meaning whatever this group ends up being.
To generalize.
It needs
this a
to
little bit,
work.
Matt, there have been all sorts of things we've talked about.
Yeah,
But we don't have
I know,
an ending.
I know.
We don't.
That's
have-
right. Yep, that's a good way to put it. And the lady that wanted to move the curbing, that is sick of listening to everybody's tire explode. Is still waiting. I've actually had a recent conversation with her last year and she is like, well, I didn't put my sprinkler in the right of way on purpose for my hedges, you know what I mean? She's expecting this to happen and it's hard to get things to happen here. So I think this is a good sort of rekindling, housekeeping, I don't know what you wanna call this, but I think this is a good idea.
Okay.
So,
I'm hopeful that the outcome of this conversation will be a recommendation to the chair as a motion.
Yeah.
To write that we are in favor of some kind of consolidation between the
yeah,
2 documents. And we look for guidance to the select board. That's what I'm hoping for.
yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. And Mike, the first order of business will be electric vehicle or electric bicycle safety.
I'm sure there'll be one of a few, I think, congestion relief solutions.
Yeah.
Since that's what we heard from our public outreach to the master plan and the last time we updated the long range transportation plan, congestion was #1 issue.
Yeah.
Delay and fixing some bottlenecks.
Yeah.
So I'd.
So I don't want to divert from the idea of a motion, but has anybody talked about putting a registration number on those class 3 bicycles
It's
that
in the
have
works.
the physical ability to go more than 20 miles an hour?
Yeah, there's if you want to do a little search the internet a little bit, they have this special commission on micromobility. At the state legislature, they've been meeting monthly. I've been participating in those meetings and they're gonna make a recommendation to the legislature on what legislative actions need to happen. The last meeting, it was last week. They had a representative from the registry of motor vehicles give a presentation with a recommendation of how to actually structure that. And they're looking at more of a speed-based scheme. vehicle, bikes and vehicles that get that, with assistance go less than 20 miles an hour or less would not require registration or licensing or age restrictions. Those that have, go faster than 20, like the class 3s and everything else. It's kind of all over the place, but at least require a license. You have to be 16 or over. Whether it's registered or not, it depends whether it gets to the level of like a genuine motorcycle or if it's a little scooter type of thing, or a class 3 e-bike.
I'm being realistic.
Yeah.
If I'm a community service officer on the sidewalk and a kid goes whizzing past me on the sidewalk and it's going too fast for me to stop him, it'd be nice to note down a number and pursue that. It's all part of enforcement.
And that's part of a package that I think police, they're gonna start unveiling out what their enforcement strategy is. I just looked at it today, what their strategy is. And I think they're gonna set up some, I wanna call it, what do they call those speed traps? It's not a speed trap, but
Yeah.
it's a speed trap.
What, the signs, Mike? You're talking about
The signage, but actually have officers at strategic locations like at the Rotary, to where you can actually see the bicyclists come onto the path and like, actually, that kind of looks like a class 3 or one of these e-mopeds or an dirt bike. And then, you know, talk to the user and how that's not appropriate or it is appropriate. So those checkpoints or speed traps or whatever you want to call them in a nice way. That's something the police chief will talk about, but that's
Cool,
in the works right now.
okay.
Did you hear her comments the other night? Did you hear her comments the other night at select board?
Sorry,
Police chief, did you hear her?
Jody Casper?
Yeah, did you hear what she was talking about?
No.
She mentioned getting them off the sidewalks, bike paths. Complicated. This bike thing is not that simple. This isn't 1986. I mean, these are silent dirt bikes.
Hmm.
That's what they are. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it is true. And the kids that are on them are not mature enough to understand what they're creating. I was, another issue that happens with them that is actually could be worse than some of the stuff that people have seen all the time. So let's just say you're on Washington Street, you know, for the millionth time this year, sort of not moving, then not moving. All of a sudden, an e-bike comes by you, literally,
Flying.
like if they're taking a coat of paint off your car, they're so close, okay? And if
Now,
you just,
could I have one more
Yeah.
step to this scenario?
yeah,
He's coming down the right side, which is my blind
can't
side.
see, that's right, and it could be either way, in between the cars or to the right. If you just turn your wheel just a little, like for no you're just doing it, and you're in the lane, you're not doing anything illegal, and all of a sudden that you hit this kid. I mean, who's at fault? I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, like, what a new problem that is. It's like. I don't know. I like them because they don't use gas. It gets people to work. It is kind of gets more non-vehicle stuff, but
Well,
it
there's lots
does cause a lot of
lots
problems.
pluses.
Yeah, there is.
Well, I think now that,
But anyway,
Mike understands that this is something we're really interested
Yeah.
in. And we want to learn more, but let's stay back on the issue.
Yeah.
Would anybody, first of all, any further discussion? Would anybody like to make a motion that we would be happy to work with the select board on a combination of the two requests?
yeah, when you say that, you mean the BPAC and the,
No, the,
oh,
the statement that you
Oh,
have
okay.
here,
okay.
page 3. And
Or single.
okay,
the motion.
Ed has made the motion, and second would be Rick.
Yep.
And
Good.
what am I gonna do with this motion? Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna send a memo to the.
a vote on it first.
You
You
need to
gotta let
know.
the professor get to it.
First, what you gonna do with it, so
Right.
we both in the right direction.
That's right.
Table.
Okay, a quick review of Robert's Rules of Order. You mayn't discuss a motion until it's on the table. It's on the table when it's moved and seconded, but before it's voted on. It's okay, Phil. So I will be writing a note, to MPEDC chair, to the select board chair, through town manager, reporting that, our outcome. And because this is significant enough, folks, I hate to do this to you, but roll call vote, please. Rick Atherton,
Aye.
Snooky Eldridge,
Aye.
Ed Gillum,
Aye.
Gordon Oscarloni,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye.
Alan Reinhardt,
Aye.
Lee Saperstein, chair votes aye. Bill Smith.
Aye.
Thank you, folks. Where's my note? UNAM. Whatever I send to the town, I will, blind copy to. Didn't you know that's what the V was for? Blind copy? BCC, to members of the committee.
Blind carbon copy.
Yes.
That's right.
It's absolutely right.
Second time I'm right.
It's as
Yeah,
old
but
guys,
nobody knows what carbon paper is today.
No.
an erasing shield and an eraser that doesn't tear a hole in the paper yet. What,
Yeah.
you're talking about my doctoral thesis.
Racist. I never knew.
Mike, I think the next issue may involve you, but is there anything more that we need to discuss with Mike before we turn to the second agenda item? The second agenda item is encroachment. And Bob, if you would bring us up to date. Because you and your colleague Tracy McDonald made a presentation to the select board that, as I understand it, was very well received. It's on you, Bob.
No, thank you. I know this is a very passionate group, but I'd prefer to defer, conversations on what are we gonna do going forward, any changes. Because Tracy's very involved in that, Tracy McDonald, who I work with. And I know she'd like to participate in that, but I can certainly bring this group up to date with what's happened thus far.
Please.
I presented to the select board October 8th, and that presentation, which is contained in their packet, included a PowerPoint presentation. And it was focused on our existing policy, so nothing in there was recommendations or these are ideas we have. It was merely a recitation of our current policy as a refresher to remind them, and as some community outreach. We also looked at a few slides about what do other communities do. And we looked at like communities, seasonal communities primarily. And interestingly enough, most communities do very little. Some appear to do almost nothing, at least that's written or documented. And we found two, Chatham and Provincetown, which did have policies somewhat similar to ours. They had categorized types of encroachments like we do. They had a process for bringing this to department heads, public works, select board if necessary. Interestingly, both had really more process than we did on the enforcement side, but it required going through the select board, if not town council, which again seems, like a real challenge. What I said at the meeting, and what I said in the past, and what I'll say today is, I don't know if these towns just have better people than we do, but it seems like if we were to bring every encroachment through the select board, through town council, that's the only thing we'd have at those meetings would be discussions of encroachments. So what Tracy and I believe based on our experience, and again, we're glad to, if this group would like to, have the PowerPoint presented in a meeting, we can do that at a future meeting. I think it would be helpful because it'd be a refresher. You folks are well familiar with the policy, you were integral in framing it. But it is the same policy we've had since many years ago. 2014 was the date it was put into place. There have been amendments along the way, very minor. The most recent being changing Board of Selectmen to Select Board. So
Yeah.
very minor
Yeah.
types of changes like that. So basically, what we feel is important is the outreach, and what I explained to the select board. I also did talk to Rotary last week, which was great. That was a good group of folks. So we're getting out there with community outreach. I'm certainly willing to do that. Tracy's willing to do that. If you folks are members of other, neighborhood associations or other civic associations, we'd be glad to go out and do our presentations. About the presentation itself, slideshow, 10-15 minutes, really short. People often have questions, want to ask things.
There are
Yes,
at least three of us here who are members of the executive committee for the Civic League.
yes,
And there are 24 or 25 separate area associations. There's a good connection there.
that's great, right, and we had talked about that, and now we're ready to go with the slideshow that was vetted and endorsed by the select board. And so, at the end of the day, it's worth watching. Certainly this segment of that select board meeting, I would encourage this group to watch, even if you're very familiar with the policy and we go through it here. You can watch, there was a good spirited discussion at the select board. Drew Patnode was there.
I saw
Yeah,
that.
so you'll know it. So we had engagement from board members. We had Drew Patnode really saying, look, this is how I would like to apply the existing policy, which as DPW director, he has a lot of authority, power, control over interpreting things, let's say as safety violations or dangerous to public safety. He can take action on those things. When they fall into a lesser priority category, that's where we get into setting certified letters, notification, engaging with homeowners. So one of the things Drew Patnode, who's our DPW director, was very specific about with the board was his desire to take action in situations where he feels they are a public safety hazard. And one of the things that came up is is the issue of metal stakes, rocks that people are placing. We've talked about that before. And Drew made it clear that he views those as a safety concern and would like to take action. And the board ultimately endorsed that. There was a lot of discussion, but that was endorsed. We have a lot of ideas, and I know you folks do, on how we can make the policy more efficient, more effective. And Tracy and I would like to have that discussion with you because we think there is an opportunity to have further engagement with your group, with the public, and then back to the select board for some updates and revisions potentially. But what I found in my experience, Lee mentioned earlier that we had interns this summer, and they were very helpful in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
But one of the ways they helped us do the research on the encroachment policy. Candidly, they put together the majority of the PowerPoint first draft. And when we would get people engaging, which we did, people did respond to letters or emails. I would go out and visit with some of these folks, and I'd bring an intern, and it was a good experience because people. I didn't bring a surveyor. I may have needed one, but again, generally I found people, certainly people that respond are willing to engage and oftentimes are willing to work with you. And again, these are the people, let's say you live on a corner, things aren't perfectly manicured, they're getting a little scraggly, they're above the 3 foot. When you bring it to that person's attention, and it could be a corner like a Matticat Road where it's not a nice manicured corner, but you are that corner lot. And, when you bring it to their attention, when you're out there with them, the light bulb goes off, if not before, wow, this really is dangerous. And they're the ones who experience that the most.
Yeah.
They live there.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get out of their street, they're trying to get to their house. They want more enforcement of speed, so again, it starts to click. Hey, this is good for everybody to manage these issues because the sight lines are safety issues, and Mike is very involved in those kinds of things. So again, I found the outreach to be positive. There are folks that aren't excited about getting engaged. They're getting a certified letter. We'd like to change that. We'd like to have a little softer interface, but that's our policy. That's our policy. But again, in cases of safety violations, Drew can go. So again, those are things that I think we will and should talk about. But anyway, so that's what we've been doing. So I feel what I told the select board and what I do believe is the outreach is very important, because I think some people would just say, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. But there are folks that, when they realize there's a policy, when they realize that we're gonna be looking and doing more more consistently, that they'll comply. They want to work with us. Again, not for today's discussion, but obviously there are issues people have concerns about enforcement. And we did talk to Chief Casper, and so we've had some discussions. And she has a lot of good ideas. These are things that I think will help, you know, whether we're talking about fines or who will impose them. Because again, as drafted, everything was done very nicely, but she even points out, it says here that if we're gonna impose a fine, it has to be imposed by an officer, right? So an officer is not a community, you know, a CSO. An officer in her mind is a police officer, sworn officer, so that is a resource of hers. So, you know, maybe there's a way we could get an encroachment officer, you know, those kinds of things. There's other ideas that she has. Escalating fines perhaps for folks who aren't as engaged and willing to comply is may be what you need, because some people will be more than willing to write a check if it buys them another season of encroachment, but if you monitor it, and so she had some very good ideas, but again, we have to work with our existing policy.
So as you spoke, Bob,
Yeah.
I came up with 3 separate reactions. But I think as chair, I defer to people who
Yeah.
raise their hands first.
Yeah, so I know you have a lot of other things on the agenda, but, and Tracy, but I understand that, so we're here, so let's go.
Drew didn't show up, so
Yep.
we've got a little.
I got it, I love it, let's go.
Well, maybe I'll start. I just think, I have a feeling that it would be helpful to get a sense for, you know, the past 12 months, how many people have refused and to do whatever they've been asked nicely to do. And that might give us a sense for how serious the problem is. 6, 10?
Yeah.
Out of 50, I just don't have any feel for.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
again,
what's your
yeah,
problem?
I can give you,
Our-
right, and what I can tell you is the amount of interface or outreach is in the hundreds, so it's a lot, you know, of encroachments, if you will, and
So
But-
it's the
but-
amount of encroachments on Baxter Road.
it is about that, yeah.
Every house is on there.
It's a prime example.
But that's the part that I'm concerned with, is what Snooki is talking about
Yeah.
there real quick.
Yeah.
First of all, no one knows what road layout means,
Correct.
okay, nobody.
I tried to explain. that
Handfuls of
later.
people, but the thing is, and I say this a lot, we are not Arizona. We're not, we are. You know, the pyramids here, like have the variable width, you have the
Oh,
thirties.
yeah.
How many people know nobody at Farm Road? I mean, yeah, nobody at Farm Road is 30 feet.
Yeah.
30? Why? Just because, like, I don't know,
Right.
just the way it is. Washington Ave and Mattocket's 50 and Mattocket Road's 40. Why? So we should just mow it down and ruin the whole, I mean. It has to be, everything's gotta be looked at in its own merits. You can have a sightline issue that's. Not in the layout that needs to be trimmed by the property owner, regardless of that, especially these
Certainly.
weird layout roads, so. I look at this as sort of like the clean team, we gotta get people on board, doing their own stuff, I have that on my street, I used to take care of the whole street myself. For 30 years, like I'm cutting it back, take care of it, it's easy, kids can walk on the side.
Right.
Now it's not, there's other people owns properties now that kind of like think I'm a weirdo if I'm cutting bushes, but guess what? The bushes are growing out into the road, but it's a private road. It's easy to fix, but like I gotta talk to people about it now instead of just doing it my own, just doing it.
Yeah.
So, but it's true, Alan. I mean, there's a sight line on a private road ain't no different than a public. It's still a sight line issue. It doesn't matter.
And it's still an accident
It's,
waiting to happen.
that's what I'm trying to make a point.
Yep.
And then bike path, pulling out to a path,
Right.
not having the brush cut so you can like see in 2 directions. I mean, these are the things. So I would have a rating system, like what is a real bad versus a medium versus, you know, Gosnold Road always gets brought up because of that hedge. It's unbelievable when you can't see a thing when you pull out there. That got fixed a few years ago. But I'm just saying,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Okay, we've
I
got.
I know, we're not gonna fix road layouts, but we can make friends with people and they don't even know the stuff is going on. They don't know where their property line is.
Exactly, I
They
mean,
don't.
right, and that's what I did learn, you know, again, many people are, and again.
It's
A lot
not
of
their
people,
fault.
and a lot of people have landscapers, so
Yeah.
it's not a huge ask to.
They don't know,
apply.
I can tell you that.
Right, but that's why with a lot of people, oh, I'll just, you know, and I've met with some of
Yeah,
the,
but they don't-
yeah, and I've gone through with some of the
Okay,
landscapers, so anyway.
Trying to keep this in order, Ed raised his hand.
Yeah,
I see this as, it's a start, the education and the outreach there. I do like the fact that they're rating in levels of identifying encroachments in tiers.
Yeah.
Safety being one. Now, and I did like the fact that Drew said that these letters and all out for safety issues is not really feasible from an administrative standpoint. And plus it buys you half the summer of the season to get it cured perhaps, if at all. I think if it's a safety issue, it gets cured ASAP. Then it goes down to the next level. And then it goes down to the licensing of existing.
Yeah.
And I think the licensing is a great way to do it.
Yeah,
But I also think that there's another factor, because I know the reason that some of these people are doing what they're doing. I think striping, be honest with you, and enforcement of the striping as a fine, if someone's parked there, can be made part of this, because a lot of people, put these things up and keep people from parking there.
we're talking
leaving a
about the
truck.
stakes and the rocks now.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I think that's a lot of danger there.
Yeah.
The stakes, the rocks,
It's,
the hedges, yes, the stakes and the rocks they're big at night. I mean, they're dangerous.
Take out your oil pan.
Let me drag
happened,
let me drag Mike
Yes,
Burns
sir.
in. Mike, what is the process for applying for striping? Is there a policy, a process, is that you? Who deals with that if a homeowner says, I wanna have a yellow stripe in front of my property?
If they request no parking, usually they go through the C-Click Fix app and they'll drop a pin and say, this is what we
Okay.
want. That request will go to traffic safety, staff will talk about it and see if that's recommended. Then it'll go to Libby and then select board. And then there'll be a work order to DPW to take care of it.
So,
Most of them don't know that from an education.
absolutely, so maybe that's something that is
We
part of
wouldn't
our
have-
outreach,
We
right?
wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, and honestly, I know there is a process. I
So
didn't-
that should be part of the outreach.
Yeah,
Really like
good
a
idea.
solution, because they're gonna say, this is why we do this, or this is
Yeah,
why.
we may not wanna stripe the whole island.
It's not just beautification of, my irrigation heads, but
Snooky, did you have?
Well, there's some yellow stripes on Center Street, Wisconsin that we need to get rid of. What was a garage is now the guest bedroom and bath. Why do they need a yellow line along the street in front of it?
Good point.
Good point.
Okay, I did say I had some reaction, but
Don't, you don't want to.
Bill,
Let's try.
that's a handle on it. You're just nervous.
No, I'm waiting.
Yes, sir.
Does the select board consider this subject in the mandate of roads and right of way? We have talked about it for years, but we talk about a lot of things.
Right.
And so I guess the question is this something we talked about that we actually?
Joe Markinger wrote the policy.
We have had.
Yeah.
We have had the
Revised it.
sense that we may, because it has to do with public
That was
access.
my suspicion, but we talked about a lot of things that may.
Yeah, and what I mean, candidly, they certainly didn't during the meeting say, you know what, we really want to hear from roads and right of way about this. However, what I would suggest is, because again, Tracy and I would be pleased to present to this group, which would be documented, and you'd see, what we put together, what we presented, what we're willing to present to the public. And then, we can certainly get Tracy's view as well, how would we best approach it if this group has thoughts and ideas on revisions? It hasn't been substantially revised in quite some time. There are a lot of frustrations of folks that are involved in the enforcement, other than Drew saying, I have the power to do these things, which he does. If you read it,
Yeah.
it gets even sillier than that, whereas if there's something defined as an immediate safety hazard, a police officer will come and grant the person 10 minutes to get rid of the encroachment. So I mean, again, I don't know I don't know if you guys wrote that or somebody else came up with that. I don't know if they thought there'd be a broken down car. I don't know what they were thinking.
I would think in your presentation to the select board, part of your presentation would be that this had been reviewed with roads and right of way, and they support this, whatever
Yeah.
plan of course of action.
Of course, they're already done with that.
Yeah, and again, we're working within our mandate, and our mandate was, let's bring it forward to the select board. really for the purpose of, reminding them what the policy is, explaining that we feel it's comprehensive. And giving us the forum to kind of talk about these are things that can be done under the current policy. So it accomplished that goal of advising the public that if the Director of Public Works determine that things are safety hazards, that he will take action. And I think we're gonna be seeing that happening. So it did accomplish that, but it was not designed for the purpose of saying, here's some great ideas we have for you. I think it's gonna be, we'll take a few steps towards that.
I think perhaps we could be very useful, like we were on the sidewalks and things like that, and maybe in identifying some of these encroachments. You know, maybe that could be part of our mission is to,
Get out and
identify.
look.
We've done that for years.
Yeah, I
When
mean,
we had nothing else to talk about, we would, we'd go,
Okay.
Nat would remind us of an encroachment.
So I
How many boots in the ground go down and
No, but
go?
frankly, I think that when's the last time we have been made a proposal to the select board on anything?
That's gonna happen.
I've been on this committee for 6 years and I haven't been, and I don't recall anything in the last 6 years where we as a committee took a position and a recommendation of the select board, and I don't think they look to us, frankly.
I'm hoping that
well,
changes.
I think,
Okay,
We did ourselves.
so I'm now raising my hand. I
Yes,
have-
sir.
I have four
Please have your
issues.
stand.
To be brief, I'll only take 10 minutes per issue.
wow, okay,
At your presentation to us, one of our considerations must be, does the policy itself need to be amended? So, a review of the policy and whether or not amendments are needed, for more efficient regulation. It doesn't necessarily mean stricter, but it may mean easier to apply. So that's my first 10 minutes. My second is, as we were talking about encroachments and the notion that people want to protect a little strip of grassland, maybe we could come up between you and Drew Patnode with a plan of best management practices for installing natural looking barriers. I'm thinking about pavers with holes in
Yeah,
them,
no,
let the
I brought
grass
that
go through.
yeah,
So it would be a little compendium of how to build an edging.
Yeah.
That's my second 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And my third is a reflection of life in State College, Pennsylvania, 20 years. Turns out there's a difference between many towns and Nantucket. In State College, I owned the sidewalk. And when it got all cracked and
12 Oak Street.
and all the pavers were becoming tripping hazards, I got a note from the town that I had to repair that. Though in State College, we were well aware of the sense of a betterment. What a lot of people don't understand here in Nantucket is that Nantucket owns the sidewalks. And that it's a privilege. It's actually out to the road layout. But in town, it's very often the sidewalks. And so, part of what we address in the future might be part of this education scheme. What do you own? What do we own? Who's responsible? If the town doesn't shovel this ice and snow, whom do you call? Because it's not your sidewalk, it's ours. Or in the case of a snow emergency, for the next 24 hours, it's yours, clean the ice off. It's more than just encroachments. My final, that's my third 10 minutes. My final comment is a reflection of the street on which I live, New Street. It's a one-way street. It's the hedge at the top of the street. It's not an encroachment because from Pleasant Street, you don't need a sight line. But what about every other day when somebody closes the street I have to go the wrong way, and I can't see because there's a hedge. Do we deal with, wrong way on one-way streets? Is that an issue?
You go the wrong way?
If I wanna get to the store, I have to. If I wanna obey the police officer who tells me you can't do this, you
He's
gotta
talking
go.
No through traffic.
Orange Street ain't getting blocked off, he's talking about.
So those are my 4 issues, and I think they're all addressable. But the big one is, in your presentation, think about how we can help, if there are any needs for, I go back to some of the other boards and commissions in which I've worked, where there were, defined rules, and then there was a whole set of interpreting the rules. And so maybe we don't need to change the regulations, but we do need a little compendium on how to conform to the rules. What does this mean for you as a homeowner?
Yeah.
So, bunch of stuff.
I'm just gonna comment
It's all I had first
quickly
and second
on,
info.
since you brought up your street. If the sidewalks were all in the right place, you're correct, the town would own the sidewalks. The problem is a lot of the sidewalks aren't, including on New Street, including a new neighbor of yours down the street, they wanted the town to fix their sidewalk in front of their house. And then when they were informed, when they looked at the survey, that they own 1/3 of the sidewalk. So the town wants them to replace, and actually the town wanted about half of the replacement, but of the sidewalk in order to get it replaced. Because the sidewalk is not really in the right place.
Yeah.
And these are these historic streets of downtown. There's a number of these things,
I'm sure.
but it's because they're just not in the right place.
So as it turns out, New Street was developed from Pleasant Street in the 18th century and terminated at the Warren Street Plaza. And then primarily pedestrians went down to Orange Street on Warren Street. So
Yeah.
zippity doo dah. Ed Stackpole told me, oh, he said, that was the Warren Street Plaza. I used to play baseball there, which is why
Yeah.
it's a condominium ownership of the land, not of the buildings.
Are you expecting an audience?
Interesting.
What?
Ward.
Are you expecting a lot of people?
No,
Take the
No.
chairs.
We are.
You can take
Oh,
over,
yeah.
whatever you wanna do.
But
Good luck.
It's through Warren Street.
Yeah. So, with respect to your comment, the lower part of the street, and I call it lower because it's downhill, but it's actually the northern
Right.
part,
Right.
was developed in the 19th century. And those houses date from about 1840, and they do have brick sidewalks in front of them. God knows who helped them lay them out. So yes, we understand. And what's more, the gentleman across the street has just spent $1 million+ in turning New Street into a desired place rather than where what's his name had his.
I know. Yeah, Johnson, Albert Johnson.
Albert Johnson, yes.
He had more land than that.
Suki, you had your hand.
Dover Street.
Yes,
Big hole.
you have an encroachment on the town land. The sheriff or a police officer serves a notice on you. You have 30 days to remove it, or the DPW does, and bills you at 3 times what it costs the town to remove it.
And that's in the policy.
Well,
So,
I didn't realize it was a three.
I would just go one step further. I had the same situation in New York City where I had in front of my house, I had a sidewalk. Not only was I responsible for cleaning it, I was legally responsible. So anybody in the city of New York who tripped and fell, they just looked up and took the note of the address. So there's a legal piece to that too. So that leads you to the point, well, is the town legally responsible when somebody trips over a brick?
yes. In- Obviously,
That's
each
why
case is adjudicated,
don't agree
but in
with
general,
crazy some of it.
and we don't hear about them. but
We
there are
need
suits.
collaboration with things like this, not adversarial
Okay.
relationships.
Right.
Thank you.
We'd like to get some poles moved. Maybe we can make that happen with all this. It's insanity, the telephone poles in the middle of the sidewalks in the town.
Gardner Street.
Well, Gardner, except for the one, there's just happened to be in the right location, so no one says anything, but it's probably a private property.
Mike, your favorite topic. Is there any scope for marking Gardner as no truck traffic or no traffic greater than 2.5 tons?
I want to say that was a recommendation of the town advisory committee or the town area plan advisory committee. I forgot the name of it.
Oh, my
But
God.
I believe that was a recommendation to at least evaluate it.
That's right.
So I don't think there's anything happening beyond that recommendation, but
Okay.
there's one in an area plan anyway.
Drew
If
had
you get me
originally said that he
started
was
on
gonna be
Gardner
here, that's true, Pat note. He's not.
We had a chance to
and
fix it.
I don't see that he's trying to admit,
No.
So we move now to, I'm not quite sure whether it's old business or new business, but Rick, do you have any report on your conversations with the Sconset?
Oh. Gee.
This
That's
is,
the old business.
this is for Nat.
You talking to them? Did you meet them out there?
We did, so my
Okay.
report, which will be brief,
Okay,
Not 10 minutes?
is that Bob and I met with Carol Greenberg, Lynn Filipski.
Yeah.
And Julie Ruddick at Carol's house and talked for an hour and a half. Went through their updated slideshow and their sort of want list, if you will, which hasn't changed that much from where we were a month ago. And we in essence said, well, let us all think about that. We exchanged a number of documents from the prior committee that they hadn't seen, like a full page of ideas from Jim Lentowski that he presented to the committee, and interestingly, you read those and you say, nothing's changed. They're all similar issues today about the bluff walk. And I think they remain concerned, so essentially, Bob and I are gonna have to reconnoiter, he on the town side, get some feel for what the town might be willing really to do. I don't think you wanna go through us, have us support this group just as they have it, and find that the town's not necessarily supportive of all of their ideas. So I think we gotta work through a process, make sure we get to a point where we're together on this. So my job is to keep sort of our meetings going forward. There's a process. And Bob's is to work kind of backdoor with the town. And we'll see where we go. My impression of the meeting was they're extremely well intentioned. But sometimes they're, I think, more focused because they've heard from people on the bluff path more than perhaps other community members who might also have an interest. And I think we need to make sure we don't ignore both of those interests. So that's where we are, and I think we'll probably meet again. The idea would be able to come back to this group at our next meeting and have a good feel for what might be possible.
thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Yes, I do have reactions. I have been the focal point for members of the Sconset, I think I get this right, Sconset Civic Association and Sconset Trust. It was clear to me that they wanted this committee to carry the cane. And I think Rick's advice that we need to be, to use a very misused word, we need to be disinterested, which the synonym is impartial, unbiased and impartial in our advice to the select board. Things that upon reflection, we think might work. And I will say this informally, because we're not yet ready for any kind of reaction or formal action. Is that static barriers will not work. Static barriers, fences, stiles, turnstiles are an invitation for vandalism. If there's a problem, it's gonna take human enforcement, and then there's the issue of who pays.
True, it's all about enforcement.
Yeah, so, let's hope that we can come up with some kind of report that's acceptable to them Um. I don't know about the who pays issue.
So I'd be interested in any of members here who have a thought, without generating, violation of the open meeting law. I think if you have a way to just share that with Bob or
One-on-one,
myself,
you certainly may,
one-on-one,
you certainly.
yes, so that if you have something on your mind about the bluff law, please let us know. It's better, I think, to have us have a feel for that. We could deal with these folks and maybe other Wisconsin community members. They represent the Wisconsin Civic Association and the Wisconsin Trust. Whether they really represent all the other people in Wisconsin who aren't active in those two organizations, I'm not so sure. So, but if you have thoughts, please let us know.
Snooki, well, I'm gonna ask in general for your reaction, but before that, specifically, there are some commercial interests in Wisconsin. Do they get together? Are they able to speak with a single voice?
Not that I know of,
Okay, the market, the post office,
yeah. Well, the post office really can't legally,
okay,
and you got the Wisconsin bookstore, the market and Claudette's, and
Yeah.
that's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And the market's owned by the trust.
Yeah,
Right.
Wisconsin Trust owns the market.
So,
There you go, so.
So
So,
Another one.
so Snooki, your reaction, since you're our Wisconsinner.
Well, as far as the path goes, I think every square inch of it needs to be opened up. I mean, I admit I'm very prejudiced towards it. But when you were raised in Wisconsin and you spent your entire life in Wisconsin, that footpath rates up here somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's true. He's right about that. But he didn't have tours.
No,
I used to cut it.
oh, yeah.
Lucky. I did. I couldn't believe the lawnmower that Earl gave me to use, but that was a liability. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a normal thing.
Yeah,
And there was occasionally people walking once in a while. It wasn't like an army.
no,
And I don't know if a lot of the people that live there now or how long they've been there, have they seen that change from, let's just say the seventies and the eighties to now?
Yes.
They
well,
have, okay,
the other thing is too, Nat,
yeah,
did I tell you that there was a public way across that piece of land when I sold it to you?
No, but your attorney, my attorney should have.
Yeah,
oh, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and real estate agents.
yeah, but all the ways, out there are recorded now. Everything is on paper, including that one we extinguished, what was that called? That was the name of that one. Frederick Lane, or Frederick Way or something, that got extinguished.
all the recommendations of the earlier committee for takings have been accomplished except for one.
Yeah,
And that's in, sort of kidding, Bob's inventory.
yeah, I think all the takings were accomplished. It's just a question of will there be now, granting back and easements. That's where kind of things are stalled, but that remains to be seen.
Good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I hate to say the Sconset Bluff Path. I mean, I know one of the ideas probably even trickling through their minds is that they have almost counters, is that only so many people at a time can be on the bluff path.
oh boy,
But I hate to say that Nantucket, in a lot of areas, has been loved to death, okay, by the social media, by the number of people that are here, the number of people live here year round even.
I think it's just been discovered.
Well, or the
And
land
it's
bank.
advertised.
I'll use the land bank as in the old days, the land bank bought the property next to you. I mean, if it was waterfront, it's waterfront. That was wonderful, but if it was just a piece of property next to you, went great, there'll be open land there. But the next thing you know, the person next door to that goes, oh, there's 40 or 50 people next door. I have no privacy. But that's the nature of what happens.
Yeah.
So there's people complaining about the number of people on the sidewalks these days, the number of people here. It's a question of the number of people that are coming here. I don't think we're gonna go backwards on that. And in fact, the next couple of years, I think you're gonna see it go on steroids with, the 250th of our country, with some movies coming out, et cetera, et cetera. I think Nantucket's gonna be even more. But it's, part of this is the social media world and what we live. You can go to Capri, Italy. There's people that they're having problems with it. You can go to all over the place. It's popular places are becoming too popular.
It's, it's not just Nantucket, although for us, it's ever present.
But
But it's Aspen, Colorado,
yeah,
it's
everywhere.
Litchfield, Connecticut. It's some of the Connecticut seaside towns. My daughter lives in Westport. It's
So
a
we-
heavily
it's leaf
regulated.
peeping season in certain places in Vermont, New Hampshire, it's.
We can talk a lot about a lot of things, but we may be limited on what it is that we should adjudicate or recommend. And the wealth growth of Nantucket is obviously generating a lot of pressure. But let's just deal with the pressure points rather than my house that is now worth something like 30 times what I paid for.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah,
ridiculous, I know. Essex Road's 2 million. So
we got one more.
just
agenda
real
item.
quick on that, you guys are doing a great job at this and I appreciate all your time doing this. I'd like to go out there with you, but you have to call me. I'll just turn around and just show up because it's like the schedule and it's impossible. But this whole dusk thing, remember that? Is that still in effect where they kind of tentatively closed the bluff path at dusk? That's, remember that sign that Wade Cottages is selling, and that's where that was. I
It's-
think it was.
Wasn't
it?
It's on the sign, but it's not legally enforceable. It's a
I
recommendation.
figured that, no, I knew that,
And
but
dusk is,
does it like deter anyone? I mean, do they know this? Is there a way for them to monitor that? I mean. People get excited when they see more than one person for like, oh my God, but it's like, it may not be as bad as that. It's just, I don't know.
I don't think it's that bad after dark, man.
So it's happening by itself.
it's early
Yeah.
in the morning.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that to me is the biggest issue.
But
that in the evening, when people
early
are
July when the.
enjoying their own house, you know?
Kind of late.
Well, anyway, okay. I mean, I
Okay.
feel bad for them people because they think that we have this like huge amount of authority. I won't tap into that with other issues around here, but it's crazy. Like,
So,
we don't have any. We're just making recommendations.
So for Rick's edification, you've done well, because at the Scallopers Ball, Carol Greenberg came up to me and gave me a great big metaphorical hug.
She hugged you.
That's
It was due to Bob's good work.
not
We
sure
have
about
one
that.
more agenda item,
Bob's doing a great job.
and Phil, it's just an update on the status of the harbor plan.
The Harbor Plan Committee met last Monday, a week ago Monday, and we voted to, we made a few more changes, thanks to this committee. There were a few changes
Okay,
on this committee, and we voted to send it to the state as the state recommended. They're gonna take a quick look at it from to see if there's any obvious things that were incorrect from a legal point of view or whatever, and turn it around, and then it would be at a point where we would forward it to the select board for their approval, which would then go to the state for the state's final approval. But the state apparently, and when they do these harbor plans, they see stuff in it. And if they didn't catch it before it came from the select board, then it's another thing. So we are at the point now where it's subject to the state making some, editorial changes. It's gonna be on its way to the select board. So we are thinking that probably implementation, which would begin at the next round of appointments when the select board does their appointments, I guess in the spring, and that would be the implementation committee.
okay. So I have two quick thoughts, Phil. The first is were there any changes on the recommendations for this committee's involvement with the implementation committee?
No,
Okay,
I think the issue is, we were starting to get into the weeds, surprise, surprise. We were starting to get into the weeds of, does it have to go to town meeting or whatever,
it's
whatever.
tall grass, not a weed.
It's a state
Well,
requirement.
And the whole point of it is the implementation committee has a big job because essentially they have to go through everything and decide what recommendations need to be made, and then who is the appropriate entity at the town to make that happen.
Sounds like short.
Well, my second thought, Phil, is a share. I was appointed by this committee as a young committee member, well, I was 60 something. To be a member of the Harbor Plan Implementation Committee. And it was hugely complex. It had a matrix of something like 110 lines and 15 columns. And so you can imagine 15 times 110 is almost 2,000 nodes. And the chair of the committee got crosswise with the select board. It didn't help. And I suspect that those things that were gonna happen naturally did happen. And those things that were passed on that weren't gonna happen, didn't.
What we are going to do,
Keep it simple.
well, under that, in that spirit, when we forward it to the select board, we are going to list what we think probably 20 things that need to be addressed immediately.
Fine.
And if those 20 things are done,
Like they
we're successful.
should be.
That's right. In other words, but there are probably 100. But what we're gonna do, a lot of it is stuff that can be wrestled to the ground. A lot of it is just talk, talk, talk. And we are gonna, weed through that and identify what really needs to get done and who we need to go to in the town to get it done. And if we can't get it done, we will document it that it can't be done. But it's one of these things where this is not usually the way things are done in committees in Nantucket, but stand by. We're gonna get, the important stuff is gonna get addressed.
Just as a side observation. The value of the crop coming out of our harbors. Main Harbor, Pulpus Harbor, the head of the harbors, Mattocket Harbor. $2 million, $3 million in finfish and shellfish. The value of tourism dependent on clean water is in the billions. And so the health of the harbor has a tremendous impact on the well-being of Nantucket, and we don't always think about that. We love our shellfish to death, and we're that's the advisory board
Yeah.
next door. They're working their hearts out to improve the eelgrass beds. So there's more places for the little fellows to live.
Gotta get people to ghost golfing now. It's like,
Sure.
gotta get people to ghost golf and like killing deer. There isn't anybody. It's totally different now. There's plenty of golfs because no one's going.
Lot more families golfers.
No, I know, but I'm talking about the old days. It's not 60 boats going out November 1st anymore,
Well, I mean, I'll just give you one example. There is, we are recommending that, the harbor master, and Nantucket Moorings, consider an arrangement where when a visitor comes to their mooring, get their mooring in the harbor, that someone, probably either from the harbor master's office or from Nantucket Moorings, drops a pellet in their holding tank.
Pellet.
And that would then,
It's a survivable die.
Oh.
and that would then create, an orange, yellow, whatever in the water. if somebody,
thank you.
You're talking about
Look at
discharge.
it go.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
understand what you were saying.
but for example, to give you an idea,
Jesus.
I suggested that we use as an example, somebody else in the Commonwealth, Wellfleet or Provincetown. No one. The best example they could come up with was someplace in California, Palo Alto or something. So that's what we're dealing with.
So this is not necessarily a workable, solution, but it is a
But it
parallel.
hasn't been tried, so let's see
It's a parallel.
let's see what happens.
The terrorists were stealing explosives out of construction sites. This is true. And they were blowing up civilian, enterprises. This is true. And nobody knew where the explosives came from because after the explosion, it all went poof.
Yeah.
And so with the help of the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives Division, taggants were developed that survive an explosion. So what's the taggant? They're little chips of paint with multiple colors that can be read like a URL.
Yeah.
Wow.
And each package of explosives has I think the number of codes is 7 to make them truly unique. Is identifiable down to the magazine in which it was stored.
Well, these
It can be
are
done.
the types of things that if you don't try. And you just say, well, that can never be done because this is Nantucket, then it won't be done.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna try.
Nice.
Good luck.
Wish us luck.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, folks. The last item on the agenda is anything else? You've got my favorite 10 minutes. It's just expired. Move to adjourn, please.
Second.
Snooki, second to who first? Okay. Move on to a roll call. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It is now. I got 5:20. What does it say on the screen? Looks like 5:20.
20.
We could have gotten messy. I could have brought up the alternate access